Hello, everybody. Like this message says, hi, and welcome to this first episode of this next tutorial I'm making after a long time on creating a platformer. And this is what we're going to be doing in the first episode. Now, I know what you might be thinking. This doesn't look that exciting in this first episode, does it? But this is going to turn in from this boring thing into a greater platformer that I'm going to show you now. This is the platformer I'm showing you. So, you might have seen this in a few videos before, but it's a platformer you can run, you can jump, and you can do lots of cool stuff. So, you can wall slide and you can wall jump. And as well as that, you can collect coins. And yeah, there's a and there's a few cool secrets and stuff. So, as you see, you have to collect all 9 coins to be able to open the portal at the end. Oh my god, that wall jump is so hard. And look, there's a 4 out of 9 here. So, yeah. And this is a checkpoint, so now whenever I die, not only will I respawn at the checkpoint, my coins have also been saved. And when I get to the very end, oh yeah, I lost again. So, yeah, and you have to use this to do tricky puzzles and stuff. So, like this, for example. And there's another thing we're gonna be adding is cool slopes, so you can run up, and eventually slopes get too steep for you to go up, but for some reason you can stand on them. And yeah, and we've also making slope platforms that you can stand on. And last but not least, we're doing this. So this is the ending. Did you see then it turned from red to green because I collected all 9 coins. And when I get here, then I've completed the level. And he falls in the portal of death and doom and despair. Yeah, and that's what we're going to be making today in this video. But before we begin, please like, subscribe, and follow. Anyways, I hope you enjoy.
And let's get into it. So first what we want to do is let's code a scroll X and scroll Y to work so that when we code the scrolling of the level, that'll make it a lot easier. So create 2 new variables. Scroll X, oh, my caps lock. Scroll X and scroll Y. And on the press of the green flag, we're going to broadcast a message called begin. And this is going to be for like if we create a menu or something, then we can just do broadcast begin. So when I receive begin, there we're going to set scroll X to 0, scroll Y to 0. And as well as that, let's create 2 more variables. One called X in lowercase for the sprite only, and one called Y for the sprite only. I do capital and not capital to distinguish between for this sprite only and not for this sprite only. So above this, set X to 0 and set Y to 0. And for the set scroll X and scroll Y's, just plug this X and Y variables in, just to make it easier to tell them apart. And then after the begin stuff, we're going to broadcast respawn. And whoop whoop, the game started. But what are we going to do now? So when I receive respawn, let's code some game stuff. So forever and we're gonna make a broadcast to the player. Broadcast, move player. And in this one, I receive broadcast move player. Yep, a lot of code already. Then we're gonna add 2 more custom blocks. Yeah, I know. It's a handful, but it helps later on, trust me. Move X, run without screen refresh, and move Y, run without screen refresh. And this is just gonna control what moving in the X and Y coordinates. And after this, let's create one final broadcast in here called move level. Once the players move, then the move level broadcast will control the level to move. So anyway, let's get on with this move X and move Y. So change um so set X, scroll X to X, and in this move Y, actually let's put the code in there afterwards. Let's scroll X to X, and above that change X by, and then I'm gonna get a multiplied, and I'll put in a high value, say 10. And you know what's coming up, guys? Yep, it's the key right arrow pressed minus key left arrow pressed. It's a lot better than having those if blah 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 things. Yeah, funny description. And yeah, so there we have it. So now when we show all these 4 variables, then when you press left the arrow and right arrow, yeah, they're gonna truly explode. But don't worry, that's because we've not added much code yet. And let's also duplicate this and put this in the Y. So change Y by up arrow minus down arrow, and set scroll Y to Y. I want you to test that. Yeah, we have high values. I don't think it would be hard to get to infinity at this rate on Scratch. But anyway, enough of that. Now it's going to be time to code the level and it actually scrolling. But before we do that, I think it would be best if we create one custom block. Call it position. Run without screen refresh. And this will control the positioning of the player. So actually moving him, not just changing these values. So define position. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna go to minus minus and go to X, take away scroll X, and Y, take away scroll Y. And this might seem useless right now because since they're the same value, he's just gonna stay in the middle, but trust me, it's very useful. And as you can notice here, look, it it's stopped going crazy, these values. They've stopped like increasing to high amounts because of this block and because of lots of game events. Anyway, now let's create the level. And I'm gonna run through a quick explanation of how the level is gonna be created and about the code. So here goes nothing.
So first we have this grid, which is our whole level from left to right and top to down, and we think, right, what does our level look like and what's his costume name? So we get what the level looks like, and then after that we get the costume name. Now notice how there's an arrow pointing to the second zero on the name and the zero on the coordinates grid. This is to show where our level will be in the X place. Then this pink arrow shows where the level will be on the Y coordinate. And finally, we have our level. This is where it's going to be placed. And now we get the other 2 levels. And this is how the code will work. So let's get coding.
So now you know how that's going to be done. Let's start by creating the level. And I've just noticed that this player is still called Sprite 1. You wouldn't want a player being called Sprite 1 in a game, would you? So let's change its name to Player. Oh my god, what the heck's going on? Player. And we're going to create a new sprite called level. And for now, just for testing, I'm going to make only 2 costumes. So if you want to create the bottom of the level, make sure that it stays within these borders, because if it doesn't, then it's going to look really ugly. Although with this bottom half, since this is the bottom of the level, you can make this go as down as you like, but that'll waste time, so you don't need to do that. And now just name it 01 that 01 for the level number, -0 -0 for the x and y, like I just said. And 01 -0, so -1 -0. And just to distinguish between the two, I'm going to make this one orange so that we know exactly which one is which. And one last one, 01 20, and this one I'll keep it, or well, I might. Yeah, I'm gonna change this color to yellow, and uh, this platform to a nice green. So anyway, let's get coding. So get a new when I receive and set up level, and go into the player sprite, and we're just gonna go to the begin, and after this has happened, so that the level knows where to initiate, yeah, then you're gonna add this broadcast setup level. And when I receive setup level, then first we're gonna create the variable called hash, a variable called hash cause. And what it's just gonna mean is how many costumes the level is gonna have. Oh, and I almost forgot. We also need to create one last sprite, and we're just gonna set it to 0 2 dash 0 dash 0 dash 0, because you're going to be checking for the next part. So anyway, when I receive setup level, if, and this has to, and now you can make a statement that's going to be true. So if 0 is greater than minus 99999 or something like that, or you can just put the not block in here, that also works too, then simply delete this clone to delete all the level sprites. And now what we're going to do is we're going to switch costume to join current level, so 0, and let's just create a new variable called level, and just to make it useful so the player knows what level you're on, let's put it as up here. That makes it look nice. So yeah, there's nothing right now, but with this level it's going to make it look good. 0. And in the player sprite, you know what to do. I don't even have to show you. Actually, I will. Set level to 1 in here. And just to let you know, there's a reason we're not putting this in the repeat respawn, because say if I've reached level 2 and I die, then it's going to take me all the way back to level 1. Or if I win. So I'm going to be stuck on level 1 forever. Yeah. So anyway, switch costume to join level -0 and set hashtag cause to the costume number. So this is going to check what costume number the level is. So if I run this script and then I do hash cause, then we're going to see that hash cause equals what? Well, so you have to press the green flag to set level to 1. And now hash cause is equal 1. And that's correct. And if I move this level, this first part of the level to a different part, to say costume 4. When I click the green flag, it says costume 4. So that's a success. But we must always keep these levels in order. It's crucial to keep them in order of thing, of level number. Although the X and Y can be different. Anyway, so now we're gonna switch costume to, and then what we're gonna do is level +1. So this is gonna check for the next level and how many costumes there are away from the next level. So set hash cost to the costume number, take away the previous costume number, take away the costume number. And when I click that, so click the green flag, and you will see that hold on a sec, guys. Just wait a sec.
Okay, so I found out that it was just a glitch with my thing. For some reason, my thing was glitching out a lot. But anyway, let's continue. So set this hash cause to not this way around, because when you show the variable, it makes it a negative number. So we have to swap these two bad boys around. And when I click, yep, hash level hash causes equals 3. And that's correct if there are 3 level 1 costumes. 1, 2, 3. So now what we're going to do is we're going to switch back to the original costume and repeat for a hash cause amount of times. And at the end, oh, and we're going to create 2 variables for this level. X for this sprite only, Y for this sprite only, and another variable, letter, for this sprite only, as well as part for this sprite only. Yeah, 4 variables, but they're going to come useful in decoding our level name. So, my blocks. We're going to make a block and we're going to call it decode level name. And this will help us in reading the level name out using the explanation from earlier. So decode level name, then create clone of myself, and finally next costume. And so this block is gonna take a certain letter, read the letter, uh, and if it's a dash, it'll change the part variable by 1. Else it'll set the variable to a certain number depending on. It'll make sense in a sec, trust me. So define level name. Set X to blank. Set Y to blank. And we can also put these 2 blocks under here. So set X to blank, set Y to blank, set letter. And normally we would set the letter to the first letter, but since we already know the level, there's no point in reading it out. So we're going to set it to the third one. So 1, 2, 3. We're going to set it to the level, set the level to level 3. Well, the letter variable to letter 3. If I were to remove this 0, I'd set it to 2. So the lowest number is 2, and the more zeros you add, the higher it gets, if that makes any sense. So let's continue. So set letter to 3. And now we will set the part variable to 0. And now let's get our repeat. So repeat until the variable letter, so that number is greater than how long the name is, so that it doesn't start reading blank values. So length of looks And since we're reading the costume name, we're going to select costume name, not number, or else it would end immediately. Maybe. Anyway, so repeat until letter is greater than this. And now, if else. If letter, if letter of costume name equals the dash, then we're gonna change the part variable by 1. So it's gonna go to the next part. Change part by 1. But if it doesn't equal the dash and we've reached the number, then we're gonna start checking to see if we need to change the x and y values. So if blank, and there's one last thing variable I need to create. Call it max x. This is just going to control how the bounds of the level and in the x and y dimensions. Anyway, so let's hurry up. If part equals 1, so if it's the first part, then we're going to set the x variable to the join of the x variable. Oh my god. Join of the x variable and the new number we found. So letter of costume name. But if it wasn't part 1, then it's probably the y. So we're going to duplicate this and set y to join y letter of costume name, if that makes sense. And over here, we're also going to set the max x. So if max x if max x is less than x, or x is greater than the maximum x variable, then since we always want that max x variable to be the highest highest x, we're going to set max x to x. And finally here, underneath all this gibberish stuff, we're going to change letter by 1, so it goes to the next letter. And as you can see, we've already created 2 levels. If you click the green flag, you'll see that that's worked. And they're all overlapping each other because the variables didn't really do anything. So we're going to fix that now. So go to events, when I receive, move level, and we're going to change the moving of the level. So if x equals blank and y equals blank, this is just going to show that this is the original sprite and that we don't want to show it. That we're simply going to hide it and stop the original sprite from doing anything. Yeah, stopped all. So stop this script. So now, as you can see, now it's all hidden because, yeah. So now what we're going to do is, if else, we're going to show underneath for now, just to test it works. And yep, the clones have come back into view. So now we're going to go to above here, remove the show, that was just for testing, minus and minus. And we're going to have the same thing that was in the player. Go to x minus scroll x and y minus scroll y so that it gets into view. X minus scroll x and y minus scroll y. And now if you want to test that, it's going to start scrolling, trust me. So show. Yep, you finally have a scrolling level, which is nice. but they're all overlapping each other. So we're gonna get an if hmm, x minus scroll x equals the actual x position and y minus scroll y is the actual y position. Oh wait guys, I've just realized they're all overlapping because the x is being set to blank for all of them. So what we're going to do is we're going to stop this from being activated for any clones, and so we're going to set type, create a new variable called type, this sprite only, and set type to clone. Okay, so the reason why that wasn't working is because the x's are just 1 and 0. They're not going to move that far. So we're going to have to set x to x times 480. But don't do it here because then it's going to do it for each time it finds a new number. So under here, set x to x times 480 and set y to, oh, nope. Set y to y times 360. 360. And as you can see, that should be working. Yep, now all the levels are overlapped properly. So now we should finally add the bounding of the level because we've been kind of being stalled. So go back to the player sprite and in the position block, we're going to add an if. Wait, actually, these first you need to get these set scroll X and scroll Ys. Those aren't meant to be in the move X and move Y. They're meant to be in the position block. So set scroll X to X and set scroll Y to Y. Put it above those in the go to at the bottom. So yeah, now the level's finally moving. So now if scroll X is less than 0, we're going to set scroll X back to 0 so it can't scroll all the way to the left. And yep, Scratchy can't go to the left anymore. So now if scroll X is greater than max X, the variable we created earlier, this is why we created it. Set scroll X back to max X. So if we go here and we oh yeah, it's because I forgot to set the max X variable at the bottom. Make sure to move this max X to the bottom, not just up there. And as you can see, now that should be working all right. Yep, Scratchy can't go to the right anymore. And let's just make him go to front layer on the green flag on the begin under the setup level. And let's carry on. So if scroll Y is less than 0, set scroll Y back to 0. And these are all the bounding scripts we're going to need. But if you want to add some bounding to when you go up, I'll make you guys can figure out how to do that. I'm also going to put this respawn this go to front layer on top of the on top of the respawn block. Anyway, so now let's carry on. If x is less than negative 240, set x back to negative 240. And I'm going to show you why this is useful now. To show the x variable, when I start moving left and I go to the very edge of the screen, notice that when I go back right, even though it's increasing, Scratch Cat isn't moving back right. And it's very annoying. So when I add this block, boosh, it's going to stop that problem. So now he can't move further left than he needs to be. Now let's add one for the right side. So if x is greater than max x, add a further half screen, so 240, and set max x to max x at 240. And I test that. And when you go to the right side of the screen, then he can't go off it anymore. And folks, guess what? We're almost done. One last thing is in this position block, let's add a broadcast to move the level. So everything gets updated. And we can remove the move level from here. And that's it, folks. We've finished this tutorial, episode 1, on how to create a platformer. And if you move level, this is what happens. Anyway, guys, we finally finished this episode. Yes, I know, it took a long time. And it wasn't really that fun. We didn't really add much. But trust me, guys, next episode, our next episode, we're going to be adding so much cool stuff like jumping and smashing into walls and hitting the top of this platform. And you wait till that. As well as that, we may also add animation to Scratch Cat, but if not, that might be episode 3. Anyway, that was a very that was very good. And we will end this episode. See ya. Woo!